Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the LaunchDay Shorts podcast. I'm your host, Dean Cvetkoski, a.k.a. WhoDean. And today in studio, we have a bright, young, very compelling star right here in studio. Her name is Jacqueline Handoyo. Did I say that last name correctly?
Close. Handoyo.
Close. Say one more time.
So, hand. People used to make fun of my last name, so I think it's better off pronounced the way you did.
Handoyo? Is that it?
Handoyo.
Okay, Handoyo. Like, yes or no? You know what? Forget it. I'm not even going to ask you to try and, you know what? Actually, we will. Try and pronounce my last name. What do you think? How do you think my last name?
I don't think we'll go there.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And that last name, Jacqueline, where does that come from?
So my last name's an Indonesian last name, and my first French name. So mom's Chinese Indonesian, and my dad's Belgian.
Okay.
But I didn't get my dad's last name. So
very interesting. Your dad's Belgian, and then your mum's Indonesian, so Chinese Indonesian. Wow, that's an incredible mix. That's cool.
Yeah, don't know how it happened.
Yeah. So, like, was there a story behind that? Like, how did they meet? Were they on a
I never
overseas
asked.
trip? Or...
No idea. I've never asked. People ask me this all the time, and I'm just like, I actually don't know. It's a good question.
You should ask. I reckon you should ask.
I
reckon that'd be an interesting story to find out.
Yeah, potentially.
Then you find out it was like, I don't know, is your dad like, like one of those typical dads? He'll throw a dad joke and be like, "Oh, we're at a bar. I saw her across the room and I knew she was the one." Like, is that what your dad would say about your mum or what?
Potentially.
Yeah.
It's a bit like cheeky, but yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. No, I love that. I love that. So, Jacqueline, look, from what I understand, right, you're in property, correct? You're in the property industry. Is that right?
That's right.
Do you want to run me through, where you're currently at? Because you're 26 now, correct?
Yes, just turned 26.
Just turned 26. So you're 26. You've started a business. It's a startup business. Were you in business before that?
I was in business prior to that. So we spoke a little bit about, me being an entrepreneur when I was younger. And even when I was in university, I did a little bit of digital marketing as well. So I did that for a finance company, but it was still part of a large development group. So that's how I was exposed to property. And then obviously COVID hit right after I graduated university. So I was just doing that. And yeah, essentially right after, I was like, I don't want to do this, behind the screen stuff anymore. And I was like, that's how I got into real estate. But yeah, obviously Derek and I, we have our own business as well from 5 years ago, which is in property. So I guess it was just bound to happen.
Nice.
Nice.
Love that. So you're 21. You started getting into property. Is that right?
Yeah. So Derek and I started that business 5 years ago. So it's a rooming house business, and we're still running until today.
Right. So what's a rooming house business? What's that exactly?
So essentially you take a regular house, a 1A, and convert it into a 1B. So say it's a 4-bedroom house and you do a garage conversion and a living room conversion and you add bedrooms into the house itself. So you would take over the master lease and then sublet individual rooms. So you have to have a license to be able to do that.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that's essentially what a rooming house is, I guess, because it's a room by room subletting situation.
Right. So you're responsible for paying the owner of the building or the house, for paying rentals, even if there's no one living in it. And then, so you're responsible for then finding. So, I mean, who's your main customer there? Is it like more expats from overseas or,
No, actually, it's been a bit of a mix. So a lot of the focus that we wanted to do from the start is to provide, an all-inclusive furnished room for young professionals that
Okay.
are looking to save. They're working full time, long hours. So they just come back and they just need a bed, really. And
Yeah.
yeah, they want to save up, to buy something in the next couple of years, in which obviously Derek can help with the financing as well. So it kind of works out,
Cool.
but predominantly young professionals.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And
Yeah.
so what's this new startup now that you've gotten into?
Yeah. So I didn't actually start it. Um, so when I left my sales job in project marketing
Mm.
last year, the day I put in my resignation, that Wednesday, on the Friday, I got a phone call. And so I got offered this opportunity to essentially run the project marketing and sales division in this startup.
Okay.
So the startup itself is called The Move.
Okay.
And essentially the idea behind how it came about, it's wanting to be a one-stop shop and a sales machine, essentially.
Mm.
So we've got a finance division, we've got management, and yeah, I run the sales division for projects.
Yeah, nice. Nice. I can see why you didn't want to be behind the computer, right? You seem like the type of person that wants to get out and just meet people and, move around. You know what I mean? You know?
You'd be really surprised. I'm I'm super duper introverted. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so in networking events, I'm just like, like inside.
Overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's a
Very
lot.
interesting.
I'm an only child, so growing up, I was on my own a lot of the time. So it's it's different, and that's why initially I got into digital marketing. But I was like, well, I can't just keep being anxious every time I see random people on the street, and if I like want to pet their dogs, I need to say something. So
Mm.
I was like, I needed to be able to do something, in terms of developing my skills where it would push me out of my comfort zone. So I went into that direction. And I was like, well, if
Mm.
I have to eat and make money out of this job, I have to be out there. But yeah, you'd be very surprised. I'm extremely, extremely shy.
How does someone who's so introverted, overcome, the like the fear behind doing even something like this, doing an interview with someone like me, or doing heading up a sales department, like how exactly? I mean, I know you said that
I'm still
you
working
have
on
to
it.
do. You're still working on it. I think
I'm
it
still
blows my
working.
mind.
Yeah. I feel like fake it till you make it is is my life motto. But no, it's a work in progress. And I feel like Aaron talks about obligation, obviously. And if I feel
Mm,
like I can really help someone out, or, they can benefit out of the skills or the knowledge that I have, and just the connections as well, I was like, well, I just have to put them first and
mm,
not me. So,
yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
something
I
that,
get you.
yeah, definitely is a work in progress.
That's an interesting challenge to have. It still blows my mind because you hear it all the time, right? Like you hear a lot of introverts that have a hard time talking to people. But then if you're in charge of sales, or I mean, it kind of blows my mind that you even stepped into that role in the first place, right? But you know, I find that very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. What would be your sort of best strategies for someone who's introverted and moving into business or maybe into a sales role? What would be your advice to them?
Just be yourself. I know that's super cliche and ew, but when I first started,
Mm,
I felt like because I cared so much, people could see how genuine I was.
mm,
And I feel like a lot of people say if you do the disc type personality, a lot of people that are in the S type are
mm,
actually a lot better in sales. And that's been proven
mm.
as well. So, you know, just because you're introverted doesn't mean you cannot be out there and serve others first. And I think that would be the biggest takeaway is just be yourself and be genuine and care about
I love,
others.
I love that, and then that's yeah. Look, like I know literally a handful of people that probably needed to hear that, right? So, I'm just pondering on it. I'm thinking about it. And I'm going, yeah, you know what? That would be a good thing for these people, right? So, and that's great advice. That really is great advice. I mean, where did you? I feel like for you, I mean, growing up, I mean, what was that like for you? Did you have a good supportive environment at home? Did it endorse business? Did it endorse relationships and cultivating relationships? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, sure. So I was born in Indonesia,
Hmm.
and everyone in Indonesia that I know of in my circle, they own their businesses. So
Mm,
that entrepreneurial spirit was always something that was cultivated in me and everyone around me. So it was really, really normal to always start something. And yeah, every conversation is like, you know, how are you going? How's business? And I think Oki said the same thing because I saw it and we actually spoke about this when we
mm,
first met. We're like, it's
mm,
crazy that we're in, this Aaron Sansoni seminar and everyone's trying to, be an entrepreneur. And that's the kind of community you mentioned, community, right? You wanted that support and people to say, yep, you're doing the right thing. We're
mm,
here to support you. We're all doing the same thing. Whereas growing up for, Oki and myself, I guess, in Indonesia, it was normal. It was
mm, mm.
recommended. It was, yeah, encouraged, but it was, yeah, extremely normal for us growing up
I
to
find
do
it
that.
so interesting the disparity between some Western culture and then Asian cultures as well, right? And
Yeah.
like most of my visits overseas have mostly been Asian countries. I don't know. I like the humidity. I don't know what it is. Uh, you know what I mean? But like it just I don't know. I just see. I feel like when you come to Australia, the US, the UK, there isn't as much support for people to start. It's like, you know what I mean? Like
Mm,
Ariana Grande comes out with a new perfume, and then all your friends line up to spend $150. But you start baking fucking muffins at home, and you try and sell them for five each, and they won't even share the fucking post. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like that's
Yeah.
that's really it's the culture here. I mean, was that so that you're saying that over when growing up and being in Indonesia, if someone started a business, even if it was baking muffins and selling them for a couple of dollars, that would be
Yeah.
endorsed and recommended?
Yeah. So if you're in, say your friend group circle, so we have a lot of family friends and
Mm,
we all just support each other. So, mom's friend would open up a restaurant or they would open up a, I don't know, clothing store. And
mm.
every opening, the whole group and all their friends and all their, family, they'll all be there. So that's super duper normal.
Wow.
Yeah. Every
Wow.
other day, it'd be, oh, they opened up a restaurant. And then, if it's successful, you keep coming back. But if it's not, then they close up and it's on to the next. And yeah, it's
Yeah,
normal.
I love that. That's been my whole life, right? Actually, it's even funny enough. I was actually talking to Oki about this too, and that was, like I even posted a reel recently where I interviewed Tony Tariff, and I asked him, said, "How much do you think I'm in the hole for, money wise?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, I don't know, 100K." I go, "Half a mil," and then it was like, "Oh shit." And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, the thing is you just need to learn how to cut your losses and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And just cut it, whatever the negative impact was, cut it off, move forward, next one,
Yeah.
next one, next one, next one. That's been my whole life. I think if I was being totally transparent with you, I've started at least 17 businesses in the last 8 years. Some of them worked, some of them exited, some of them didn't work and they failed
Yeah.
miserably. Do you know what I mean? So I take on that same philosophy. I think that's great. I really do think if more people adopted that same mindset, I think that it'd be really beneficial for them.
Yeah, I agree. But, even growing up with that, I still struggle with the concept of failure itself. And I
Okay.
found that during live seminar, I was, I'm extremely competitive and I'm a perfectionist. And I was like, failure is not an option. It never has been. So
Yeah.
I think I just needed to reframe that because it's held me
Mm,
back quite a bit from doing a
mm.
lot of the things that I should be doing.
Yeah, I get you. I get you. I get you completely. I'm just writing things down because normally I don't write things down in interviews, but I'm writing things down because there's things that I want to talk about, but not just yet, which is good. You know,
Okay.
really, really good. So look, for you growing up, what have you always? I mean, I know it's been endorsed, right, for you to grow up in an environment where business is supported. What would you say was your first business venture? I know for me, it was like selling DVDs. I'd go to school with a list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and be
Yeah.
like, yeah, CDs, $5. Watch, if you want the latest Shrek movie, that's $5. I used to go and I'd use my mum's DVD burner, right,
Yeah.
and burn discs, and make money, right. So that was like one of my first business ventures. What do you reckon yours would have been?
Oh, it started back when I was like in third grade.
Yeah,
You know, I used to just bring pens to school and I used to just draw little tattoos, like ladybug tattoos, all types of. I actually drew it into a little piece of paper and I'm like, here are the options for your tattoos. And
yeah,
they're
wow.
obviously removable and you can rub them off in like 5 seconds so their parents wouldn't freak out. Don't know if it's safe for kids, but at the time I didn't think about those things.
I don't.
No safe.
If I was in third grade, I don't think I would have thought about those things either.
So I was like, no safety measures. No one's gonna sue me. Um, but yeah, I came up with a catalog. I'm like, pick your tattoo. I'll draw it for you. So during recess or every like lunch break, I would start drawing little, I don't know, ladybugs and drawings and whatnot, and I would charge kids in school.
Hey, yes, I'm talking to you, and I know it looks like the interview, but it's actually not. We're taking a really quick, short break so that way you can hear me out. I really want you to hear me out here. If you are a business owner, you are building your personal brand. I mean, you could be anyone. You could be a real estate agent, you could be an astronaut, an IT professional. It really doesn't matter who you are and where you fit into the world. This interview is great for you. If you're really struggling to make content, and let's face it, right? When we get our phones out and we're like, taking selfies and doing videos that way, it just comes across as inauthentic. And the other side of that as well is the fact that it's just so hard to come up with ideas of what kind of content to create. And this is where our interviews absolutely bring a powerhouse and an arsenal of, basically a war chest in terms of your organic content marketing that you're creating. We create the TikToks and Reels for you. Here's the thing, I've got some great news. The great news is that this interview is completely free. We boost your SEO on Google because we go and feature these videos like the one you're watching on YouTube. And not only that, but we also give you free content to post to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and all the rest of it as well. So if you haven't already, in the description down below is a link to Linktree where you'll see the opportunity for you to book your very own interview and get free content for your personal brand or your business as well. I'll see you on the other side of the screen.
And then I'd use
What,
that to have my lunch
what
the
are we
next day
talking?
and
10,
then just
20
keep
cents,
going.
50 cents?
Sorry,
Like
you just.
what were we, yeah, that's all right. What are we talking? Like what were you charging? 10 cents, 50 cents,
I was charging 5 cents per tattoo for the small ones and 10 cents
Mm.
for the larger ones because they're
Yeah, well,
kids. But every
yeah.
time mom's friends came over, because they're adults,
Mm.
I would paint their nails and I'd be like, yep, that's $5. And
And
then
they'd
I'd
pay
save
it.
that to go shopping or something.
I love that. So was that in Indonesia or was that,
Yeah.
you know, yeah?
Yeah, it
And
was.
because,
Yeah.
I like that
Otherwise,
because,
if you
yeah,
do it here, I wouldn't like, I don't think people would be as open to just, letting you paint their nails,
that's what I was just about to
and
say,
charging them $5.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's literally what I was just about to say. I'm
Yeah.
like, so I could see how in Indonesia, payment for service, young, how old were you when you were painting nails?
Oh, I was like 13.
13. There you go. Oh, yep, she's young. She's starting a business. She's starting to paint nails. She's been entrepreneurial. We'll support that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I find this so
exactly.
interesting because, like, even for me, I'm writing a book at the moment. I haven't come
Oh,
up with the
awesome.
title yet. but the book is around children and entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And so, like, for me, like, I see kids setting up lemonade stands and making 50 cents for every cup. And I get it. I get it. You got to
Yeah.
work hard for your money. But then, like, I'm taking my daughters out. I've actually got a card here. I'm taking my daughters out, teaching them how to sell. And so I
Yeah.
put a quick business together called Review Me that does these Google review cards, right? So you leave a review on Google for, you tap it on the phone, and I think I'll do a quick demo if I can. So how it works is you just tap the card, and then it comes up with the link, and you press the link, and it goes to a Google review. So really good
That's
for like restaurants, cafes, local business, right?
exactly, yeah.
And so I've been taking them out, and I haven't gotten involved. They're doing the selling, and they've made like $500-600 out of doing that, right?
Wow.
So you could imagine, like, that's what I mean. Like, for me, I'm kind of looking at children, and I'm looking at the current culture that exists in the Western world, especially in Australia, and I'm like, why aren't we teaching our kids to go out and make money? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And it's amazing because they start off, they know the key things, right? So they know it's a Google review card. It helps you get more Google reviews.
Mm.
And then, it costs $50, whatever, right? So they're
Yeah.
your, kind of three key components. But then what they do is they start asking questions. Why do people need a Google review card? Well, when you get more Google reviews, it actually helps boost your listing on Google, so that way more people can find you, right?
Yeah.
And so then they start adopting that into their sales pitch. Like I said, I'm not telling them what to say. Even my youngest one, do you have Google reviews? Oh yeah, we do. How many? It's like my 5-year-old, right? Like, on it, like, innocent little 5-year-old girl. Do you have Google reviews right now? Yes. How many? Oh, 20. Well, you should have 100. Like, you know what I mean? It's so cute, So I love that. Like, I really
Yeah.
love that about your history, and how that's how you guys grew up. That's so cool. I actually
Yeah.
really love that.
Yeah. It's
That's so
almost
great.
that, your parents' friends are not gonna say no. So you're just
I love that.
like hot things.
That's okay.
Ah,
It did cut off, but we got
yeah.
the gist of what you were saying. So that's okay.
Yeah.
That's all good. So yeah, no, look, honestly, Jackie, it sounds like you really, what, I kind of wish that that kind of life growing up for a lot of other entrepreneurs, they had a similar, situation for sure. And what an interesting thing to learn,
Yeah.
for everyone that's watching,
I agree.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Jackie, look, we're going into like, we've talked about you growing up and what that looked like for you. Before we get into your startup, the startup that you're involved in, where you've mentioned that you've done a merge, and you're creating this big team to go and tackle the market and be a one-stop shop, right? Before we
Yeah.
get into that, I'm interested to know what one of your biggest challenges were. So I want to know more about your challenges, and say, okay, with your challenges, which one stands out to you, and how did you overcome it?
With businesses in general or with this startup?
Life, business, whatever stands out to you. Like, if you were to close your eyes for just a second, and then set the scene, imagine what was around you, what you were feeling, the very first biggest challenge that you had. I want to know about that, because you know what, it's not always about all the great things in life, right? I want to know about one of the biggest challenges that you overcame, and how you overcame it, because I think so far you've been pretty inspiring, and all I can think about is whether like, if we share a challenge that you had and how you overcame it, I think you could be inspiring a lot more people, which I think would be great.
Yeah, I think that the biggest challenge time and time again for myself would
Mm.
be mindset.
Okay.
And I touched on a bit of, the fear of judgment, the fear of failure, and the
Mm.
whole me being introverted, I think stems from the fact that I don't want people to be, saying the wrong things about me or judging me for, the things that I say. So I'm
Mm.
still working towards that. And obviously,
Mm.
being in this startup and having the spotlight of having to be the face of the company is
Mm.
challenging for someone who's still working on, you know, that fear.
Mm.
But I think it's exactly where you need to be. So anything that makes you uncomfortable is exactly where you need to be, is all I
Mm.
have to say. For anyone out there who's so scared of just doing the thing that you have to do to better yourself, to
Mm.
better your skills, just follow the discomfort.
I think this you're not alone, right? Because even for me, I look at life and I look at where I'm heading and what I'm doing. And it's sometimes like I do get a lot of feedback, like a lot of people, a lot of support, love what you're doing, things like that. And like you'd think that that would be enough to say, yeah, you're doing the right thing, you're on the right track. But sometimes it's so hard to accept, and sometimes it's so hard to like you question yourself whether or not you are on the right path and you are doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And life is such a precious and fragile thing, and it can go away in a second. And so blink of an eye and that's it. That's your time on earth. And so I can relate to that. So I'll tell you, you're not alone. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, I never want to let people down either. So I
yeah.
think just being really hard on myself and making sure that, I don't do the wrong thing or I don't make mistakes to let
Mm.
people down is really challenging because again, I'm a perfectionist and, I want people to know that I'm capable. Sometimes I look back and I'm like, being a sales director at 25
Mm.
is daunting. I don't know of anyone else that's gotten the opportunity. And, I just have to refer back to my value matrix and say, yep, I am good enough and I can do this,
Mm.
and you'll gain experience through time anyway. So
I
just
think I've been
jump.
spending a lot of time, listening to the audio book "Can't Break Me" with David Goggins,
Yeah.
and I think that one's been like that's been a very big shut the fuck up and do it kind of
Yeah.
thing, and like stop listening to your head and just get out there and just keep grinding, right? So yeah, look, it's an interesting conversation to have, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that reach out to you, Jackie, that say, hey, look, definitely feel the same way. I would love
Yeah.
to connect. I think a lot of people would do that. Well, look, tell me about this startup, Jackie. Tell me the startup. I want to hear about it now. I want to hear the juice. I want to hear what's the word on the street. Tell me what this little startup business is. I'm very excited to hear about it. What is it? Tell me.
So obviously during COVID, the real estate industry has been shaken up. There's a lot of builders going bust.
Mm,
Materials are just shooting up in terms of prices, and a lot
massively.
of developers are finding that sites are not stacking up. So there's a lot of challenges for, the industry itself. And I guess the
Mm,
idea behind the move is they were wanting to create a sales machine, you know? It's a new era of a fully integrated services. So if a
mm,
developer is looking for a site and they need finance, they can just come to us. We make sure that everything is controlled as well. So
mm,
biggest things for developers are settlements, not just sales.
mm.
They don't get the funds until the very last thing settle. So we want to make sure
Okay.
that that process is controlled, right? So 3 months out prior to the project completion, the finance team would reach out to the buyers and make sure that they can settle. And
Mm,
after they settle, if they are investors, then we have a management team as well that will manage the whole thing. So, it's an idea that developers don't have to battle through the time of toughness alone, and at least they can outsource the services to us.
Mm.
But yeah, that's essentially the idea behind it, and obviously just to help the industry, because a lot of people are struggling. A lot of project marketers, you know, they're yeah, they're not getting listings, right? Because a
That's
lot of
right.
developers, why would I go ahead if I'm making a 10% margin or
That's
15% margin when you used to get
it's not
20,
as
25?
yeah, it's not as lucrative, as what it once was, right? And like, would you say that has a disparity? There's a disparity there because of, you know, what the current market rate is to purchase versus the cost of materials to build and full
Yeah,
labor. Yeah.
100%. So with everything going up, you know, the price per square meter needs to go up. But
Mm.
people are at a place where they're still adjusting to these new prices.
Mm.
So I think, you know, the market corrections in place, and or all the
Mm.
pillars are there and it's headed towards the right direction. But obviously COVID hurt a lot of businesses, and at the same time, people that persevere, you know, they pulled through and they're stronger than ever. So, you know, the idea that three businesses merge into one to create a
Mm.
bigger, better, stronger vehicle for, you know, everyone out there
Mm.
is, yeah, bigger piece of the puzzle.
What would be like a use case? Because look, I know a lot of builders, I know a lot of project builders, I know a lot of people within that industry. My early days in marketing, I spent so much time in the trade space. It was great, you know, and many of them went on. Like we had one guy he did form work, and then that form worker moved into doing his own developments as well. There was a tiler, same deal. So, you know, you imagine a tiler, you know, they're just there doing grout and tiles. No, they're not. They're building their own, they're doing their own projects too, right?
Yeah.
So I do have a lot of contacts in that space. What would be sort of, I suppose, the ideal situation? What would be a point? At what point would someone say to themselves that they need to work, you know, with someone like you and your organization?
I think a lot of developers would come to us if they think that they want everything taken care of all at once.
Mm.
So the hardest part about being a developer, because I do a little bit of developments back home as well, is to get the
Mm-hmm.
right people all together. And
Mm.
sometimes when you can just outsource three of the major things in developments, you know, to one company, it's a lot easier because, you know, you can just communicate with the one person that will look after you till the very
Mm.
last settlement of your project. So I think, you know, developers that want to focus on doing what they do best and outsource the rest to us would be
Mm.
the perfect client.
I think consolidating that's a really good user experience, right? Like I know for me that if I was, you know, if I was going through that process, like I've got all of my own shit to think about, you know, when it comes to the formalities. And remind me again, so it was the finance. What were the three components
Yeah,
of that again?
finance, project
Yeah,
marketing and sales, and
yeah,
management.
management. So we're talking about like, you know, the actual site management, the development management.
So rentals, so property
Yeah.
management.
Okay.
So
Gotcha. Yeah.
say you're in, you know, building a tower and the tower is suitable for investors because it's got a high rental yield and return. Um,
Yep.
when the project finishes and, you know, the purchaser settles, then our management team can also handle that side of things and find you the
I love
tenant
that.
and
You're
manage the tenant.
covering the builder. So the builder in terms of you know, the finance side to get the money to actually do the project, right? And that could
Yeah.
be you know, that could be second mortgage lending, that could be private lending, that could be project lending for specific, you know, specific projects.
Yeah.
There's a number of different finance options. Then you go to
Correct.
the marketing and sales. So you're finding, you know, people for their principal place of residency or investment. And where those people come in from an investment point of view, you're also then covering that aspect of things for them, where you say, well, hey, we already know the whole building. We know the owner of the building.
Yeah.
We built the place. We know this place like it was the back of our hand. We can run and manage this rental property for you. So you're actually
Correct.
capturing the market. I like that because then, from a business point of view, I like it because you're sort of capturing them at every step of the journey to consolidate what you're doing, which is great.
The full circle.
Yeah. But from a consumer point of view too, it makes a lot of sense, right? I mean,
Correct.
if the owner of the building the owner of that property is renting it out to a tenant, tenant reports cracks in concrete or something like that. Maybe there's concrete cancer, God forbid, because that's, knock on wood, right? But say something were to go wrong, the like there aren't as many steps to get to the person who needs to solve that problem because it's all under the one banner as well. So I can see the benefits in every step of the way, which is really good. You know what I
I think
mean?
a lot
Really,
of
really good.
exactly. And a lot of the times developers are finding, settlement a challenging aspect. So if developers are doing boutique projects, they sell it to owner occupiers, most of them would settle. But say you're doing a massive tower in the city or, the inner burbs, and a lot of your clients are either overseas purchasers or, investors. We want to make sure that that process is controlled, and we want to ensure that they settle so that developers don't have to resell that because, there's holding fees and costs involved and marketing again. And it's just not worth having to resell a specific unit if they can't settle. So yeah, that's massive.
I love that. I love that. That's honestly what you've got going there that's a really good business model. And I don't see how, any builder that's doing projects or, even smaller projects, doesn't have to be high rise, right? Like it could be
No.
townhouse projects, could be a
Yeah.
duplex. Yeah.
Correct.
That's
So
awesome.
we typically work with, developers that are developer builders. They might just have 5 to 10 townies or apartments, and upwards to the most recent project we just launched was 305 apartments.
Yeah,
So
wow.
a wide
So do you
variety.
stop at 305? What if they came with 500? You wouldn't take it?
We keep going. We're working on one that, 450 apartments. We just signed one that covers land estates. So we've got 10 land estates at the moment. So that's house and land packages. So yeah, getting there.
That's awesome. And I may have someone to introduce you to as well.
Awesome.
It's actually, my uncle has quite a desirable piece of real estate in Flemington.
Okay.
So I won't go into too much detail. I'll take it offline. But
Confidential.
That's that one which could quite very much so potentially be a multi-story building development. That overlooks the race course. So you can imagine
Yes.
the demand for that kind of.
Yes.
I mean, that'd probably be the easiest project marketing that you do.
There is a project at the moment in Flemington.
Right next door, I bet.
Yeah. I heard that they're doing well. So yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, I kind of gave it away when I said right next door. So yeah,
I'll check up the address. I know exactly where it is.
Absolutely, you'll catch on. But yeah, no, definitely happy to do some introductions there.
Thank you.
I think it'd be a genuine opportunity for you guys to maybe even introduce a second part where you go to your existing, developers and say, "Hey, we have a unique opportunity. Would you like to jump in on it?" So, but I'll do that intro later. That's fine. Should be good.
Sounds good.
Should be an exciting
Thank
little thing. Awesome. Jackie, listen, I think we've gone double the amount of time and I'm okay with that because it was a very good chat. It was a really good interview. I really enjoyed it. How did you find it?
It was really, really good. I felt like it was really genuine and natural. You're a really good interviewer.
No, I appreciate that, Jackie. Let's All good. That's all good. I'm still learning how to take compliments too, right?
And you were
I'm
like fidgeting.
yeah. I'm just like, shit, another. Okay. Thank you. I think I could probably practice that a little bit more. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
I know.
That means a lot to me.
I'm
That's
still
awesome.
practicing that too.
Good stuff. Jackie, look,
Awesome.
there's going to be a ton of people that are going to be looking at ways that they can get in touch with you and connect with you. How can they do that?
You can call me on my mobile. You can email me on my email, but we're currently still working on the branding side of things because, as we mentioned, it's a startup. So personal brand, company brand. But yeah, the best way to contact me would be through my mobile.
Okay. And do you want to share that with the world, or is that
I'll
something that?
leave that to you to share my details.
Yeah,
Um,
cool. What we'll do is, because we're about, I don't know, probably about a week away before this episode gets published. And would you say that the business Instagrams and socials and things like that would be set
it's
up in that
still a
time
work in
frame?
progress. They're all still work in progress. I think our main idea at the start when we launched was obviously getting, the business up and running to make sure that when we do build the branding side of things, we actually have, projects that are listed to build on top of that. And my personal Instagram isn't really work related.
Totally.
So I'm happy for people to follow me, but yeah, the best way to be checking for the move is at the moment the website.
Love it. That's fantastic. So, and what's that website?
themove.com.au.
themove.com.au. So we'll add those links in the description, and when your other links do become available, Jackie, we'll add them in a little bit later.
Yeah.
And I respect the hustle of getting it up, getting it running, and getting it started, and then working out the rest later. I'm
Yeah.
a chaos conductor. That is quite literally the definition of everything that I do. Same as the LaunchDay Shorts podcast. In a 48-hour window, we launched that. We were doing these interviews where 20-minute interview for your personal brand or your business, and we give you free content out of it as well. In that 48-hour gap, we had 35 appointments booked. I was like,
Oh.
oh yeah, if we get 5 or 10, then we'll take it to the next step, and we'll create landing pages and all the rest of it.
Exactly.
And then we got hit with 35, and I was like, I was like, shit, we need to set up the email campaigns. We need to set up
Yeah.
this. We need to set up that. Oh, it was a nightmare. So I respect that. I love that. So good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome, Jackie. And thank you for your time and taking the time out to share with the world and all of our audiences who you are and all the amazing stories that come with it too.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're very, very welcome. Guys, everyone that's listening at home, at work, in the shower, in the car, wherever you might be listening to this episode, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate your support. And don't forget to hit those subscribe buttons, the likes, the follows, the comments. If there was a question that you wanted to ask Jackie as well, guys, drop it in the comments. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know if there was any specific questions about Jackie's life or what she's doing professionally that you wanted to ask. We'd be very, very happy to answer. And if you do need to reach out, you can reach us at support@launchday.au, and we'd be very happy to help you. And that includes if you do want to get in touch with Jackie directly as well. We'll see you again on the next episode of the LaunchDay Shorts podcast.